due to an article that just came out in Israel Breaking News, I have something that's pretty interesting, that's kind of an update from what I shared that the Lord had revealed to me prior to making this video. Several videos ago, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 videos ago, when I talked about the 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 passage. And I want to revisit what I told you in that video so that when you see what was just posted, I think it was about 2 days ago in Breaking Israel News, you'll see how this could fall into place exactly like what I was telling you. Remember how I was talking about the Temple Mount, and I was talking about the King of Jordan and the occupying force that controls God's holy mountain. And I told you how the Lord had revealed to me about, in the 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 passage, about it being a lease for 7 years. I guess I'll start this by going back and telling you exactly what I wrote down, how the Lord revealed this to me. I was talking about how the King of Jordan, they go back to ruling Syria, the Hashemite kingdom does. And sometimes we have the Antichrist known as the Syrian. But that's kind of a side point right now. I'm not saying he's the Antichrist. But what I am saying is that Jordan is going to be involved in creating a lease for 7 years to the Jews to have possession for the holy Mount Moriah to build a third temple. And 3.5 years later, he will break the lease, stop the sacrifices and offerings or oblations to God. Now, the thing is that if you read this in context, where it has the word that means lease, that I discovered in there that was just amazing. It says, if you put that word lease in there where it says, he who now restrains will do so until he's taken out of the way, and then the lawless one will be revealed. To me, it says that this person's going to be leasing the land, and then they're going to be taken out of the way, and that person taken out of the way, whoever is the one taking them away out from that, breaking the lease, is going to be the person that's the Antichrist. I hope I'm saying this where it makes sense to you. Now remember that back when Obama was president, I showed you that article that he suggested that Israel lease the land for 7 years. And of course, Israel said, we are not for sale. And then everything with that opinion fell apart at the time. Of course, in Daniel, it says, he will confirm a covenant with many for 1/7, which translated means 1 week, which equals 7 years. I wrote down that the proof God gave me, that 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 about the man of sin, son of perdition, proving this in the King James Bible Dictionary. I just want to reiterate this. In the King James Bible Dictionary, the reference to the words letteth and let mean to lease. So when you have that 2 Thessalonians passage that says, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way, and that lawless one be revealed, the son of perdition, that's where the letteth and let means a lease. And when it says, only he who now restrains will do so, it means occupy or occupiers and possession. So we're talking about land and leasing land in this passage. This is straight out of the King James Bible Dictionary. So what I'm telling you is the truth about the definitions of those words. And keep in mind that the word restrains there is not the word restrainer. It's the word restrains with a lowercase r at the beginning of the word. And if it was talking about the Lord or the Holy Spirit, it seems to me it would be capitalized. Okay, so I've told you those definitions that are distinct definitions of truth. Now, point number 2, definition. I'm going to explain that Letteth is third person, which implies permission for lease agreement for the Temple Mount. Or it's a command addressed to an inferior, like let him go. And it's kind of like Moses saying to Pharaoh, let my people go, which I think is very interesting that should come up when it's talking about letteth in the third person, which implies permission. And permission would be for them to lease the land, to give them permission to build the third temple, the Jews that is. And then in the middle of the 7 years, this person is going to break the lease and all hell will break loose. And of course, we're going to have a situation where the 2 witnesses come, and Moses was the one who went before Pharaoh and said, let my people go. So we're going to have, I believe, Moses and Elijah appear to be the final testimony of the 2 witnesses. The 2 witnesses witnessed the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the Messiah of Israel. And so they're going to appear in the last days for the last repentance of people to see the gospel of the Lord. And they're going to be performing all kinds of signs, plagues, wonders with the rod of God, I believe, all over again. And it'll be like, let my people go for the last time. Sometimes let is used to express a command of injunction to a third person. When the signal is given to engage, let every man do his duty. And of course, this brings to mind that this, using the word letteth and let in that passage, would not only let them lease the land to build the third temple, but letteth would let them, it would allow the Jewish priests to perform their sacred duties on Mount Moriah, and this lease allows them to build their Jewish temple. Interesting that let is also a terminating of diminutives such as hamlet, which is a little house. And of course that passage says, he who now letteth will let. Now, a hamlet is also a small settlement, smaller than a village. Okay, so we're talking about building God's house up on Holy Mount Moriah, and somebody leasing the land for 7 years so the Jews can build the temple, and then the word has everything to do with allowing the priests to begin their service all over again. So Daniel's covenant with many, I believe that the Lord has proven there through the King James Bible Dictionary that it's going to be a land lease at Holy Mount Moriah for Israel for 7 years. And in the passage where it says, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way, that means the person leasing will lease until they're taken out of the way, and then the Antichrist will be revealed, the son of perdition. Now, Jordan has been occupying the Holy Temple Mount, with the Waqf being in control and in charge of it. This lease is going to be broken in the middle, which will stop the sacrifice and the oblation the offerings to God. As I mentioned before, the Jordanian king wants to build a fifth minaret on Holy Mount Moriah. There's already 4 of them. Now, why am I revisiting all of this revelation that God gave me a little while ago? So I've told you all the history about the king of Jordan and how they've been occupying God's holy mountain. So it's very interesting that this article showed up just about 2 days ago in Breaking Israel News, Israel 365, and JNS. And right here I'm going to read in the middle of this long article, this paragraph, very interesting to future fulfillment. It says, in the Palestinian context, Hizbut Tahrir promotes 2 main issues: laying the groundwork to make Al-Aqsa Mosque a future platform on which the world caliphate will eventually be declared, and challenging Jordan's position as guardian of the Islamic holy sites in Jerusalem. And it says the cost of not outlawing HT includes accepting the content preached by the movement's spokespeople in Jerusalem and on the Temple Mount itself. In many aspects, it resembles the content preached by extremists elsewhere in the world, including France. In the past, this spokesperson has also spoken about enemies who believe in more than one God and offered them 3 options: to convert, to pay their poll tax, or for them to fight the people that they believe are worshiping more than one God. This leader prayed at Al-Aqsa for, quote, the slaughter of Europeans and Americans and their Arab criminal and traitorous rulers. That's a quote. The current emir or prince of HT is a native of the Hebron area and a civil engineer by profession. Until 2003, he lived in Jordan and then moved to an unknown location after he was arrested a few times and Jordan limited his activity. But for now, Israel has avoided outlawing HT in order to make it easier for the security and defense establishment to track it. Why is Israel allowing members of the extremist group to make the Temple Mount a center for their activity? As yet, there is no answer to that question. So let's put it this way. If this lease is signed, and then halfway through it's broken and somebody else takes over, then all hell would break out up there on God's holy mountain. And I believe that because the Turk had said that the third temple was going to be a mosque, that they've got it in their minds that that is going to be the final outcome. And I believe that'll be the 3.5 years, the time of the Great Tribulation. And the first part of the time of Jacob's trouble, this signing of the lease to allow the Jews to build the third temple will take place. And it's going to be something along the lines of exactly what Obama said, to lease the land for 7 years. Because obviously there's certain demonic spirits that already know that that's what they're supposed to do to fulfill the end time scenario. And so they're operating under the satanic influence to make that happen. This is just some revelations that I can't even believe that the Lord showed me this, because I've always believed that the interpretation of that passage was exactly what everyone, pastors, said that it was. But I just think that, the book of Daniel was the things that the angel showed Daniel, it was sealed until the time of the end. So people would not really fully understand it until we are there. So could it be that this land lease will take place and Jordan will be involved with that, but then at some point they will be taken out of the way, and then perhaps the caliphate will take over, stop the sacrifice and oblation, and that will be the fulfillment of Daniel's final prophecy. With those things happening at the same time that it was reported that Rabbi Kanivsky ordered the white ceremonial garments to go greet the Messiah, something that's never taken place in the history of the world. He's preparing with the white garments to wear them, and then plus the news that broke today about that the top rabbis are saying that they are going to reveal the name of the Messiah very soon. All of this coming together and understanding the lease is pretty incredible. Now, if more of the Arab countries come together, totaling a number of 10, they will be coming together with the 7 heads of the Sanhedrin. Put 2 and 2 together, and you have the 7 heads and 10 horns in the book of Revelation. 7 heads are Nasi, N-A-S-I. That word means princes. I said something about a certain project dealing with copper. You can figure it out from that. I'm not going to write it or say it. But this was a project. The world is now all under submission, and this Antichrist person is soon to be revealed. Putting it all together, it's all coming to pass before our eyes. And then we have U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who's expected to be the first in his role to both visit the Golan Heights as well as Judea and Samaria. And that is reported Axios on Thursday. And then this title in Israel365news.com: Israel installs China-like surveillance system to monitor people without masks gathering in crowds. And it's set to monitor to make sure people are staying a certain distance apart from each other and whether they're putting something on their face. It features a PA system where the government officials can warn against violations, enabling the police to be deployed to the scene if required. And looking at that line in Israel Today, and of course this was announced by Chad Thomas, but it says Rabbi Nir ben Artzi told Israelis that God is ready to reveal the name of the Messiah and urged the people to be in unity and get ready. So now, with the rabbis saying that about unity and get ready for the Messiah, what words do we have that talk about unity recently? Somebody with a name starting with a B called for unity in their Gettysburg speech. Here's what B needs to do to be a unity president. B appeals for unity as Dems underscore stakes on convention's final night analysis. U.S. election 2020. B calls for healing unity in first speech. B and S, otherwise known as BS, Unity Task Forces. That's in Wikipedia. Time to Heal in America, B urges unity in his first speech as the so-called person of elect. So after knowing that a certain person has used that word unity over and over and over, I just want to read that piece of the article out of Israel Today again. Rabbi Nir Ben Artzi told Israelis that God is ready to reveal the name of the Messiah and urged the people to, quote, be in unity, end quote, and get ready. So apparently unity is the word of the day. And of course the article said the rabbi pointed to the disunity in the Israeli government and stressed that this is the appointed time for the people to call out for Messiah and the return of the Sanhedrin, the council of sages that oversaw Jewish life in ancient times. Ask for the Messiah and the Sanhedrin, preached Ben Artzi. The Messiah will come soon to stop the plague and the Gentiles around us from harming the land of Israel. So that was part of that article that Chad Thomas told us about today, about the Messiah's name being revealed soon. And in his speech that was on YouTube, this rabbi also told the Jews to come out of America and every other place, but he reiterated and kept saying that America is dead and there's nothing for the Jews in the United States. And it's pretty sad to say that, I would say, since so many Jewish people were raised in America and they love our country. I also wanted to mention this about the United Nations. Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter sets out the UN Security Council's powers to maintain peace. It allows the Council to determine the existence of any threat to the peace, breach of the peace, or act of aggression, and to take military and non-military action to restore international peace and security. Now, what's interesting about the land lease and all that is on November 6th, you had 138 nations in the UN pass 7 anti-Israel resolutions, and they declared the Temple Mount exclusively Muslim. That was written November 6th by Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz. And we have the number 7 in the amount of those who voted against the resolution. The 7 nations against that resolution was the United States, Canada, Australia, Israel, and 3 Pacific Ocean island nations. The article talks about one of the 7. And I couldn't help but think of Daniel referring to that he will make a covenant with many for 1/7. And that particular one referring to the Temple Mount only by its Muslim name. The article stated that the UN showed contempt for both Judaism and Christianity by passing a resolution that makes no mention of the name Temple Mount, which is Judaism's holiest site and which is sacred to all who venerate the Bible, in which the ancient temple was of central importance, said Hillel Neuer, Executive Director of UN Watch, a Geneva-based independent non-governmental watchdog organization. So now it's written that this anti-Israel UN 7 resolutions can be counteracted when Rabbi Fleischer told Breaking Israel News to recognize that Israel's 7 holy cities, Beersheba, Hebron, Bethlehem in the south, Bethel, Shechem, and Tzafat in the north, and Jerusalem in the center, they form a menorah a candelabra that together emanate God's light to the rest of the world. So they believe that when they have possession of these cities, that the Torah light will flow forth from all of the 7 cities. Organizations like UNESCO are trying to undermine the Jewish narrative and put cataracts over these holy cities, putting a stop to the success, growth, and light of Israel and replacing it with terrorism, fear, and darkness, Rabbi Fleischer said. In a new course offered by Yeshiva for the Nations, quote, Israel's 7 holy cities, end quote, Rabbi Fleischer teaches about the special qualities of these cities in their biblical and contemporary context. He believes that today's Jews are living in the 3rd Jewish commonwealth on the cusp of redemption. When Israel resumes total control of all 7 cities, the words and teachings of the Bible will flow freely from them, undiminished and unimpeded, and redemption will come, he said. We are now living in a time of God's great light, said Rabbi Fleischer. We see the menorah of the land of Israel, and we pray for peace in this 3rd commonwealth and pine for the 3rd temple. And the article goes on to talk about why those 7 cities are considered holy. So all of these things are interesting how they all come together. And one final note, and I'm trying to just not use certain people's names because I don't want to be having my videos removed because I said a certain name. But you know who B is expected to reopen the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem and the PLO mission in Washington, D.C. He has also said he will restore hundreds of millions of dollars of aid to the Palestinians that Trump cut off. There truly is so much prophecy in the news that there's so many articles that come together, it's just mind-blowing. So I wanted to update about this group that is on the Temple Mount and trying to take the power away from who has control of occupying the Holy Temple Mount, Mount Moriah. They want Jordan not to have control of it anymore. So time will tell how that's all going to play out, but these are just a few things that the Lord showed me that I wanted to share with you today. I'll talk to you later. I usually feed Bunnykin through the winter and give her little apples and stuff. Sometimes she likes to have hot oatmeal with apples and cherries and walnuts and cinnamon and clove. Just be praying that the Lord will come and take us all together to be with Him soon. Your dearly loved little angel, a messenger sent from God.